to forget that my camera's off and just keep giving you the thumbs up for everything. So I'll remember.
We'll just wait till Leah gets her microphone working. Can you hear us? Okay. Awesome. My oven timer let me just put these pies in the oven. I'm so sorry.
We're all coming for dinner, Amanda. You better have it ready.
It was amazing timing on the oven beep.
Well, it's Zach's birthday, so. Okay. Ready to call this meeting to order. Recording in progress. Okay. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Town of Bluff Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 19th. It is 6:03 p.m. and we are meeting virtually. This is Amanda Podmore, Chair. Let's start with a roll call with Planning and Zoning Commissioners.
Marcia Haydenfeld.
Brian Whitney.
Malia Collins.
Ed Dobson.
All right, thank you. And Town Council members?
Luann Hook.
Great. And Town Manager?
Erin Nelson.
Wonderful. Welcome, and welcome to all of our guests this evening. Okay, we were going to begin with an approval of our meeting minutes from our April 5th meeting. So I'm going to pull that up. As always, thanks, Kathleen, for taking minutes.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm just going to start scrolling down until we see any updates.
So on the town council part there, so on the part that says is encouraged that the EPA grant is forthcoming, it has just been submitted. The application has been submitted. We haven't gotten that awarded.
Okay. The EPA grant is
submitted, maybe.
Yeah, was it submitted at that date though? I'll say
it was just submitted just last week, but anyway, yeah, has been applied for.
Well, the time of the minutes, it probably wasn't applied for, so I'll say.
Okay, it just is. It was moving along. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Luann. Okay. Okay, any other additions or changes from folks?
Looks beautiful. I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Malia.
Second that.
Second by Brian. Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes from April 5th, say aye.
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 Madam Chair, I'd like to abstain as I wasn't there. The minutes themselves look great. I just don't know if that's what happened.
Okay, thanks. That sounds good. Thank you, Marcia. So motion passes with 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay. Moving right along to public citizens to be heard. If anybody would like to share a public comment, the virtual floor is yours for up to 3 minutes. Either raise your hand or put your name in the chat. Luann, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to make a public comment as a citizen. I am on town council, but I just like to make a public comment as a citizen, and that is regarding the land use clearance that we have in process now. We don't ask for any demolition approval, and I thought it was in there. I thought we'd just been mistaken on the last couple of ones that have asked if they needed to get one to demolish things. But the problem with not having it in is that somebody could opt to knock down an historic building They could knock it down partially and leave it in a heap. It could be full of asbestos and you're putting it across on your neighbor. All of those sorts of considerations. So I just think for safety and for just it's standard. It's in the international zoning code. I thought it was in ours. So just it's something that I think we need to look at when we're making other changes. Thank you.
Thanks, Luann. I took a note there. Okay. Armor, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
You're muted, Amr.
You are still muted.
Is that better?
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, since I'm on later in the agenda, am I going to get time to talk later, or is this the only time I have? Because I'll pass now and then talk later on in the discussion.
You're not on the agenda for later, so go ahead and take some time now. And if you'd like,
I thought it said discussions about the aviation thing, but that's fine. I'll do it now.
That's just us setting a date for a public hearing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Now.
Well, I just wanted to go over a few things. I know there's a lot of questions and concerns about what we're trying to do over here. I followed the process that's outlined in the zoning. The first thing is I applied for a business license for Desert Rose Tours, which included, among other things, it's helicopter tours, also includes Jeep, ATV, Hummer, horseback rides, and helicopters. And then the next step is, if you remember, I emailed Marcia, where I asked to see if I need permission to demolish the building and backfill the hole. And the email I got from planning and zoning is I didn't need to do any of that. In that same email, I've indicated that I've hired Jones and DeMille to do the architecture and engineering plans for my project. And I said, as soon as I get those plans, my intention is to submit them to planning and zoning to get the land use clearance. So that's where things were at, until, of course, this, emergency ordinance. I feel like I was following the process from the get-go, and it just seemed like it's not fair for the rug to be pulled right from under me as we're going through that process that's been outlined. That seems like I was following what was required. I also would like to mention that, in listening to the audio, it's just like Jim Hook mentioned. If there's a good place to have an aviation operation, that would be the best location for it, because we want to continue to be a good neighbor. The flight approach would be over the San Juan River into our property. The Recapture Lodge and Bluff Gardens would have the same approach, and we would want them to benefit from that as well. So I think it would be safer for everybody. It's better than the alternative. We would commit to that flight pattern. I know some people are concerned that we're going to be flying over their houses. We're not interested in doing that. We're not going to be flying at night. We'll have limited flight hours. And like I said, we want to continue to be a good neighbor. So those are the comments that I have.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right at 3 minutes. If you do want to be on our next agenda more formally, please just let me know, because we're happy to do that.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, I thought it said discussions about aviation, so that's why I was asking. But that's fine. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay. It looks like Jim Hook, you're next for 3 minutes.
And I don't have a comment really, but I'm running the office, and I'm, as the airport manager, if you have any questions or anything, just holler and I'll turn around and give you my 2 bits.
Okay, thank you, Jim. All right, would anybody else like to give a public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment for tonight. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to our agenda, first under old business, we have an update from town council. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Luann for an update about planning and zoning related occurrences. Thank you.
Okay, so I've made a few notes. We've had April 11th meeting, and then the April 14th was a special meeting, and then last night we were on. So kind of combining some of those together. We are moving forward with the strategic planning. There have been those 3 initiative groups: livability, mindful growth, and then sustainable government. And those have all turned in their kind of summaries of ideas. And then on April 27th will be the all-day work session with Pathway Associates. And then they will pull together their plan. But that's all moving forward. It is open to the public. There's invited people to participate on April 27th, but anybody is welcome to come. That we're going to establish a dark sky committee or vote on it on the next meeting, which is May 4th. And that will, that committee would then, if it's established, would work with the designation and the end of the upcoming, or the upcoming end of the grandfathering in lights. Because there's some that have been grandfathered in that weren't affected by sale or by new construction. So that's a possibility if anybody wants to join that. There'll be about 5 people, and Sarah Burak will lead it if, again, and we've got to vote it in, but that's sort of what's we're thinking about. On the special meeting, I think everybody's pretty aware, but that was brought to our attention that there's some helipad port looking to go in within the town limits, and there was an emergency ordinance put into place to put a moratorium for 180 days to consider where that should be or if it should be. Let's see, there were 3 lawyers in attendance on that Friday afternoon meeting, and then it's been passed to you all to figure out what that might entail. Let's see, and that ordinance just applies to construction of new facilities for that sort of purpose. And that San Juan County's been notified that if not to issue building permits for that kind of activity. On the last night's meeting, we talked about the DRC over at the old school, the continuing plans to get that open. They're testing the asbestos right now, because if it's in there, it will need to be mitigated, or the plans will need to be adjusted accordingly. Their concern is now want to lift the ceiling, and so they want to make sure that that's safe before they do that. And then I mentioned, well, that was before that EPA grant has been submitted, and it is in the process. And if that happens, that will help with all of those things. And the Sitla land trade is in motion. It's at the legislative level right now, and that would affect the couple BLM pieces in town. Mac McDonald is going to be requested to send a map of what other BLM pieces there are that are getting traded out to Sitla. But that was all I had on my notes. Any questions? Or Aaron, any additions?
No, I don't have any additions.
Luann, I was wondering how often the Dark Sky Committee will be meeting, and like how big that you want it to be?
It sounds like just about 5 people to get it started anyway, and then we can pull volunteers in or added people in on different projects if there are certain things that are working on for the designation, but that hasn't been determined yet on how often.
Amanda, could I just ask on that same subject for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Luann, could you just clarify what you said about grandfathered in? And what I mean by that is we have people who haven't changed their lights yet. Have we started to send a letter to neighbors saying it is time to change your lights, or where are we in the process?
That's right. So the only thing that's been done is the December 31st deadline. That's when it, excuse me, that's when it goes into effect. And so that's part of what my goal of the committee would be to be a proactive, let people know, and then that would be, figure out the enforcement afterwards and stuff, but education of what lights qualify and which ones don't, and what the whole goal of the town is. So none of that has happened, and that's my thought is that committee can be helpful in advising what to do on those topics.
Thank you. I didn't know where we were in the process, and my neighbor's light shined in my window the other day, something I never would have noticed unless we'd written a dark sky ordinance.
Right, and on that too, the ordinance went into place and it's been solid, and it is totally in place for new and for any property that's sold. Those all have to be in compliance. It's just the ones that have been grandfathered in. You have up to 10 years with the dark sky people, the IDA, but the town voted to have it come to that point on the 31st of 23.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any more questions for Luann? Okay, thanks, Luann, for the update. We appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome.
Next on our agenda, item 2 under old business is an update on signage enforcement. So this, for folks that have been tuning in, is a general reminder that if you are putting up a sign in town or updating an existing sign, you need to go through the process of submitting a sign application to planning and zoning, and that nice form is on our website, or Aaron can help you find that, or we can as well. The update I have for y'all with the Twin Rocks sign enforcement issue is that we're going to have the town lawyer speak directly with Steve Simpson about that, and our recommendation was to have Steve submit a sign application or do the sign form, but I don't know that conversation has happened yet, so I don't have any more specific updates than that. Do any commissioners have any questions about that?
Amanda, it's Marcia, and my question to you is the idea that one of the considerations that Steve mentioned, I think in the notes, I frankly am forgetting which email was which, but he talks about, the sign existed and I put it up and it costs money to do that, etc. And I'm just wondering if the attorney speaks to him, is he speaking to him in enforcement language, or is he speaking to him in, I guess I'm not sure what the approach is. Is he going to say, go ahead and submit the sign permit, but we'll let you keep it? Or he'll say, submit the sign application so that P&Z decides if it's legal to keep it?
Marcia, I believe it's the latter, but I will clarify. I also think they were discussing a difference in interpretation of our sign code, because our sign talks about signs that are either structural signs or on devices like electronic ones, but our code does not define the word device, and so Steve is claiming that his sign is a device, and therefore is allowed. And so I think because Steve was going to come to us with that question, and we were probably going to turn it back to Chris and say, Chris, what does our code say about device, and does his sign qualify as a device? We just had them talk directly. Chris will then report back to us about this issue of device. It may be that we need to further refine our sign code.
Okay.
So sorry, I don't have a great update yet.
Well, I particularly like Chris going directly to Steve to see what the problem, to do that. But I think P&Z should be in the process eventually unless they figure it out. Thank you, Amanda. I guess we'll see which way it goes.
Okay. Anything else from commissioners on that? Okay. Move on to item 3, which is takeaways from the Utah League of Cities and Towns legislative update training or webinar. Since that's not public yet, I'm just going to table item 3 for now. Sound good with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Item 4 is land use clearances. We did not have any land use clearance applications come in. Did anybody get one that I was not aware of?
No.
No? Okay, great. Just a reminder to the public, if you're submitting a land use clearance, we need that Friday by 5, the week before our meetings.
Amanda, if I could just say, I know that I've been in and out as a commissioner with regard to some family stuff. I want to enforce the idea that I have been checking planning and zoning emails. So nothing came in that was ignored. If I couldn't have handled it, I would have sent it off to you, but we did not get any.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia, for always being on top of that. Okay. Item 5 is a discussion regarding a public hearing for aviation zoning for the town of Bluff. So to set the stage for this, this is not a discussion tonight about whether or not there should be aviation zoning or what that should look like. If you would like it to be on a future agenda, we can do that. The intention of this is, so the town has put in place that moratorium on aviation traffic for the time being, as Luann said. And because it's a land use matter, even though it's in here, the town council has asked us to hold a public hearing where we hear from the public what they think about aerial traffic, aviation traffic. If that's something that should be restricted or limited, or there should be no limits on that. So I'd like to hear from commissioners if you're good with hosting that public hearing, and if so, when we might want to do that. One factor for us to consider is that the BLM is looking into whether or not the airport of which Jim Hook is the manager could be wrapped up in aerial zoning. Or aviation zoning. We're not quite sure if that is accurate, or if the BLM airport can be used in that way. And so I think we can give at least a month for that issue to be sorted out. It also takes us about 3 weeks to post notice for a public hearing. So we should consider that as well. So open it up to commissioners for your thoughts and ideas.
I'm raising my hand, Amanda, but I can wait if you see someone ahead of me.
Go ahead, Marcia.
I just have a couple comments, and that is, I absolutely am in favor of any public hearing that is specific to a matter, because that keeps the comments just to that topic, and that's always a good thing at a public hearing. Some of the considerations I'm hoping that we will have before the public hearing, some kind of information that we'll have at our fingertips would be requirements for helicopters with regard to medical. In other words, UNHS said they'd like to build a clinic in Bluff, and they'll want a health pad if they're going to build in Bluff. The other thing about airport air discussions is FAA, obviously, and then the other one is overlay zoning. When the wind turbines were going to be put in Monticello, there was a lot of discussion about the airport sits right down in those fields below, where all the windmills were coming. And we set, at the time I was in county zoning, planning and zoning, and we set overlay zones, and it talks about how far distant you are from where the planes land to what you can and cannot do in a radius that's from the airport. That's what I'm talking about. So here's what I'm saying. If we're going to have a public hearing and we're going to hear from the public what they want, I would like at some point in this discussion, and earlier is better, the facts of what we can do before we answer people what they want. Because people go, oh, can't have it next to my house, you can't have it, which is fine. Everybody should say what they want, but we should know our facts. And that's all I'm asking.
Thank you, Marcia. And you bring up a really good point that I forgot to touch on, which is, obviously this is a very technical issue, and collectively we might have expertise on it, but none of us is an expert yet on aviation zoning. And so I talked to the mayor just for about a minute today, but she suggested that if we hold a public hearing and just get public input on this, get written input as well, the town lawyer can in fact do the drafting and look at all the different legal restrictions and things like that. Because I guess what I'm saying, Marcia, is this is so technical that it may not be in our wheelhouse to actually answer all those technical questions in advance. But if we bring our concerns and recommendations to the lawyer, then the lawyer can craft an ordinance that then would be considered by town council.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, no, I do follow that. I just want to make sure that we're informed of our basic understanding, because we're going to produce something that we present to the town council and say, here's kind of what we're seeing. So yes, Amanda, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Marcia. Any other commissioners? Any thoughts? Leah?
I appreciate the points that both of you guys have brought up, and I think that a public hearing is also a great idea. It's like Marcia said, I think it's great to get an idea of what everybody else is thinking, because that's the best way to do it.
Amen.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Brian, any thoughts you want to share?
No, I just would agree with Marcia on the general idea too of actually having a more specific knowledge of some of the rules and regulations in place already about that type of development and that type of air traffic. And just before getting to public comment, I think I've heard a lot of opinions about this subject in the last week in town, and I think it would behoove us to move out of the world of opinion and into the world of what's actually allowed and what isn't. And so yeah, I would just second that with Marcia, just knowing as much as we can before we get to public comment too.
Or maybe, Brian, it's not necessarily before because of the timing of all this, but concurrently, here's something that...
Right, sure. Yeah,
yeah.
That makes sense. Yep.
So it sounds like we're all in favor of hosting a public hearing. And as I said, I think it'd be great to do a open written comment period as well. I'm looking at calendars generally. We have a meeting May 17th. That might be a little too soon, I'm thinking. That's just a month out. Our next meeting is June 7th. We could try to do one around that time.
Amanda, can I throw in a quick question on the calendar issue?
Yeah.
If in fact the town has asked for the moratorium of building, and in the meantime we're trying to figure out what we're going to get done, do we want to do something a little more quickly because we are running into a calendar deadline with the town? I'm not sure. I'm asking.
Well, I think the town is still trying to get the details on this the BLM management of the airport issue, and what if the airport could be used for like public tours, for example. So I think they were thinking waiting at least for that to get sorted out could be good. We could shoot for the May 15th date or whatever, but we couldn't do it sooner just because of posting requirements. I know.
No, I agree. I understand that part. June 1st is fine. In terms of, you're right, it does take us a while to set that up. I just didn't want to back up the town, et cetera, of what we're doing. It's the calendar.
We could shoot for May 31st is a Wednesday in which we don't meet, but that would be a week sooner than May 7th or June 7th.
Maybe that's a good idea. Just
It
to
is
do
the
an
week of
hour's
Memorial
meeting.
Day.
Do we think people will still be traveling that Wednesday of Memorial Day?
I can only speak for myself, and I'm available.
I'm selfishly not available on the 7th of June. I have a work trip, then I'll be at the North Rim, but I could try. No, I definitely couldn't be there. There's not service at the North Rim, the Grand Canyon.
So pick something right in there and just make an hour-long public hearing meeting where you know you can attend and it isn't the holiday weekend. You're looking at a calendar, so you pick a couple.
If I may speak on that a little bit, I think that typically people will travel only until about that Monday, which is the day that they have off, and then with work starting again on Tuesday, and then if we have a meeting on Wednesday, gives people a chance to get back into town.
Okay. So
Otherwise, oh, go ahead.
yeah.
Otherwise, I feel like we'd be pushing it to the 14th. If we have to stick to a Wednesday.
Would that be the 31st that you're looking at right now?
Yeah.
So I have my bearings.
Erin, was your concern that the 31st is legally the holiday? Because we all know it's typically that 3-day weekend thing. But
No,
maybe
not that it's legally the holiday, just that people might be out of town. And I know it's easier to host public hearings in person, although I'm sure with appropriate notice, we can have a hybrid meeting if necessary.
And a certain written comment period could alleviate any problems of somebody who can't be there.
May 17th still on the options? You mentioned it earlier. That's when you're all in town and meeting anyway.
I'm just worried about the timing for the notices for that, Luann. Isn't it a 2-week? I can't remember. Erin might remember, but you have to notice the public at a certain timing.
It's 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks from today.
Yeah, Erin, do you remember how quickly you have to, or when you have to get this on record notice?
I feel like it's a 3-week notice period.
Okay.
I agree, Erin, and I'm thinking then, what about the week out? What's 17 and 7? That's the 21st or something, or
May 24th?
May 24th.
Yeah.
That might be a good.
That's a good compromise. It's not the holidays, and it would just be one subject on our meeting, so it would only be,
Yeah.
you know.
I like that. Does that work for everybody? Wednesday, May 24th at 6 p.m.
I am unavailable, but I don't have to be there.
Oh, Malia.
Well, I mean, if it works to everybody else, I don't want to be the one person that says, no. I can't.
That works.
I can't. Yeah.
It works for me, but please don't, you know.
That's right
Looks
in the
good.
needle between 2 of my river trips, so that would work for me as well.
What? River trips? You're starting a new job someday.
Is that
I will.
something? Is that something? Public hearings. I don't have a lot of experience, but do we need to ask Amr if he will be available on those dates?
Well, obviously, we'd love for Amr to be able to be there, but frankly, Luann, the typical situation is for the organization to set it, hope that people can come, and have, as Ed just reminded us, have the write-in session to it. So if you miss the meeting, you have the opportunity, as well as, and this is up to our AV gentleman, as well as having it properly recorded and available for people to listen to at their convenience. Because you're right. I mean, it would be great to ask each individual if they can be there, but we can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, since it's not going to be a notice about a particular property in question, we wouldn't need to coordinate with any particular landowners technically. But
what about Craig? Are you available the 24th? Of May.
okay.
May 24th, Wednesday night. If they do it hybrid. Okay.
Well, how about this? I will propose that we host a hybrid in-person virtual meeting on Wednesday, the 24th to the town council. Sorry, Malia, about the timing of that. And if that doesn't work, we'll shoot for the 31st. Is that okay with folks? Is that our second option?
Yes.
Okay. I will take the lead on the posting of the notice. I'll coordinate with Aaron on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
Anything else on that? Okay, great. We will move on now to item 6 on our agenda, which is discussion of our RV ordinance. So let me share my screen for everybody. How's the size of that for everybody?
It's good for me.
Okay. Just kind of curious to start, did folks have a chance to look at this in more detail?
Amanda, this is Marcia, and my answer is no, I'm sorry, I did not notice it in time to read people's comments, since the comments that I put out there in the initial version with Malia. But my comment is, this was strictly stealing someone else's draft, and making it ours, with the hope that everybody would be able to say, yes, we're on the right track, or no, we're not. And I'm sorry I missed your meeting when you said that. I'm just going to let you guys go from there, and I'll chime in later.
Okay, that's great. Malia shook her head no. That's totally fine. You helped write it. Brian and Ed, did you have a chance to look at it?
I looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to read through it today.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Maybe today we can just sort of go over some of the general comments and make some action items for either homework or for the next meeting.
That would be perfect.
Okay. So I'm just going to go in order of comments. My first comment is meant, of course, is no disrespect to our wonderful drafters of this. And as you just noted, you stole it from a lot of places. My big takeaway was like, it's very long. There's a lot in it. So I'm hoping we can really condense it. That might need to be done like in a, 2-person working session or a full commission session. But that's
well, I still volunteer myself, and I'm hoping Malia will, that we would continue to help do that based on what we talk about. And I completely agree with you, Amanda, that there's too much in here. The problem is, every time you say something like, I don't know, the next comment, tiny homes, every time you say one of those words, it instigates a whole new section that we stole from somewhere else. So good luck with that.
yeah. Under recreational vehicle definition, I wondered if we should add tiny homes. Otherwise, I think generally we need to add a definition for tiny home. So that could be something maybe that people work in a side session on. So I put in like a placeholder for mobile home, tiny home, and modular home definitions.
Good ideas, and they're definitely in many of the various versions we've looked at. And that goes to the idea of, what do we need to cover in this? Because the minute you say, I'd like a little RV park, well, can you have a tiny home in it? So it's exactly what, and you'll notice as you drive down the highway, which I've been doing a lot of lately, there are tiny homes in every mobile home park. So,
right. Yeah, that is sort of the status quo now. So, and actually we had a member of the public wanted to be on the agenda, but they asked too late to talk about tiny homes. So it might be on our next agenda anyway. So, okay, scrolling down. Okay, I had a general comment here about the organization of the ordinance because it's I found it at times a little hard to follow. I was wondering if we should have it be like section 1 is like what's allowed or prohibited in all zones. Section 2, what's for just commercial zones. Section 3, what's just residential zones.
That could be a good way of dividing. Yep. And probably is very necessary because, but I think you said we should be more lenient about living in RVs in residential zones. And I'm not sure of that, but that's a discussion we can have. But I absolutely think zoning is a key to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my opinion I'm putting out there that I think we should be more lenient about people living them on their personal properties, but that's something we could discuss and also put out for public hearing. So,
right. No matter what we do, this is going to public hearings, so we will have people commenting.
Yeah. So I'll just leave my comment there for now. Oh, this under the location of recreational vehicle parks. I wondered if we should be as specific as saying they should be close to the highway since we've already zoned them into certain zones.
I would agree with that because of how we have RV parks already in Bluff that aren't on the highway. They're off, and the zoning will protect that. So that could just come out unless, I think they were just talking about safe access is kind of what I'd want to.
Would other folks be okay with cutting that, or do you want to just leave that in there for now?
Yeah, I remember the discussion on that was just thinking of people driving a truck with an RV on it or just a large RV and just wanting to ensure that it was close proximity to highway so people weren't wandering on back roads and then getting stuck and then ending up on Cemetery Hill or something. So with the way that it's zoned, though, I'm happy to remove that as well.
Yeah, because I guess from zoning, RV parks are pretty much zoned pretty close to the highway at this point in time, if not along the highway.
Right, commercial or so you can take that out and that may come clearer with our better designation of what's allowed in the zone.
Yeah. Okay. Just noted on this one, this put a restriction on how long you could rent an RV, and I just said I disagree with. I don't think there should be a restriction on how long you can rent an RV, but just my personal. I
agree, Amanda, that we don't want to restrict someone doing that. I think the intention was not to have those RV parks that aren't open. They just end up being a little residence of people who live here. It's there is some distinction, I think, that is, but I don't have a problem with people living in it.
I'll leave that comment there for now.
Yeah, I wonder with that if we should make it a certain percentage or something of long-term versus short-term within the park to ensure that doesn't happen like Marcia's saying.
No, that's I think there was something about that, but if it's true, the whole number 2 could come out. If we're not as concerned with timing, the entire number 2 can come out. If we are concerned with timing, we could make it shorter, and it would just say, you may not have a residential RV park. You may have up to 25% as residential. Whatever it is we talk about.
Right. And with a lot of this, it needs, my thoughts are we need to definitely talk to owners of current RV parks, figure out what they're doing, what they recommend, because by no means do we want to micromanage this. We just want to make sure that everyone is protected.
Right. And the other thing Malia and I both said, and she said it, was the idea that affordable housing is such a big discussion. And here we are being careful not to knock out the opportunity of affordable housing. So, we do, there are some really nice RV parks with, a little home, a little tiny home, a little long-term rental home, or, mobile home. So you can make these things work nicely. It's just making sure that they do. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it seems like this whole section we should be looking at in the future. So
Good.
yeah. There's just a lot in here, so I think this is going to take some time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no doubt.
Yeah. Okay, here again, I was saying if we had a section on like what could be in commercial zones versus what's in residential zones, we could put this in the commercial zone saying recreational vehicles shall not be used for living quarters in commercial zones except in designated recreational vehicle parks.
Well, that's for sure. In other words, they can't just pull over and park and stay. So if they're in a recreational vehicle park, an RV park, they can stay as long as the owner allows them to stay. If we fix that part about how long they can stay. So it's kind of it all ties together, but I agree. I think, Amanda, you caught a lot of the things that Malia and I said, but didn't necessarily pull in or out until we could all talk together.
Okay.
Because there were things that she and I would go, oh, well, that's a really good idea for affordable housing. And then we'd go, well, that's a really bad idea if it's in a residential, So in other words, we said a lot of these things out loud. We just didn't quite know how to adjust to them yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes sense.
It's nice to know that we're all kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Just said I liked this section. So here on commercial zones, we said temporary use of RVs is prohibited, unless you're in an RV park or unless you're like unless you're doing construction. And then I would just said, wondering if we should let some RV rentals occur on commercial properties that aren't recreational vehicle parks. Yeah.
So if someone had a business going and they needed their employee to live on site,
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. That could be an answer to that.
I liked that suggestion, Amanda, too. I felt like that was accommodating for a need that I hear a lot about with people needing temporary housing for workers and stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like they should have to go through a big process to get somebody in for work.
Yeah. Okay. So we could figure out how to work that into that. Here I was saying when I was thinking about like our capacity to enforce everything, and if we wanted, I don't know, I tried to make this simpler by saying if you're going to use your RV for construction of your house, you should be able to use that like until your building permit expires. I thought that was a simpler way.
Agreed. And I also like your comment about the word allowed versus permitted, because permitted sounds like you're required to go get a permit, when in fact what we're saying is it's okay. We'll allow you to put your RV on your piece of land until your house is done. So I like switching permitted for allowed.
Okay, Thanks. Yeah, and that's a good catch to look for, like, throughout the document.
I was going to say throughout. Yep.
So I'll say,
Yeah, second that. Great catch.
okay. And I'll just have this go for like 3 more minutes, and then we could wrap up the meeting. Keep going.
I do have a comment on our previous agenda item when we finish up with this one regarding the calendar.
Oh, okay, great. The development plan process for RV park looked good to me. It makes a lot of
I
sense.
think that's fairly straightforward. Is you're saying, hey, you better bring us your plans. You can't just, you know, throw an electrical cord out there and go, okay, come plug in.
Yeah. And you know what Melissa would say? She would say, make a note that you have to make an associated form.
Oh, good for you.
So Melissa is still with us today.
But she's right. We need if you're going to ask for a permit to do something, you better bring the form.
Yeah, here just noting you would need to define again mobile home, tiny home, modular parks definition section.
And that section was thrown on from something after Malia and I said, do we want tiny homes? Do we want modulars? So we were saying pretty much what we've all been saying this evening, and that is, what do we want in this? So I think the next time the little working committee, whoever we end up being, can sort of apply some of these and ask, because that goes to you saying, Amanda, that it was very long, and maybe the way to do this is to incorporate the words mobile home, tiny home, and modular home into the word RV home. In other words, just to make the rules work for all of it without breaking it into quite so many sections. But I don't know that yet.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good thought.
Can I ask a quick semantic question? Is the term tiny home in how we're referring to it in this document is something on wheels?
Aha.
Someone who's built tiny homes before. There are two distinct categories, right? I mean, there's tiny houses on wheels, and then there's tiny houses, and they are not the same
the question.
thing.
Okay,
so that is.
I'll put a note. I think we need to define that, but I think generally we're talking about tiny houses on wheels that are movable.
But,
okay, I just think that maybe, yeah, we can include that
Brian,
language then, because
Brian, I think you've just elected yourself into the committee, because that's exactly one of the things we've been trying to figure out. So
right.
those are exactly where we're stuck. Does tiny
elect
home
me
on
into
wheels?
it. Love it. Yeah.
Is tiny home on wheels only RV park, or is tiny home on a foundation only resident? You know, whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely the question.
Cool. So I'm following along a little bit.
Yeah. Look at them.
You're a quick learner.
Yeah. Nope. Okay, sorry, I'm having high duty. Okay, well, we're at 6:56, so let's talk about next steps for this. Marcia and Leah, do you want to meet separately to start working on this? I mean, if the three of you meet, we need to post it as a hearing, or as a.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No. Malia, I am happy to continue. I have a little bit of family uproar to take care of, but I'm coming back to Bluff for a couple of weeks and then leaving again for a couple of weeks. So if you and I want to talk and see if we can schedule that, I'm very happy to do so. If we run into problems with that, then Malia and Brian can continue a little bit. Whatever works for a timely response. So my suggestion is, Madam Chair, that you allow Malia, Brian, and Marcia to talk and make a plan, if that's okay.
That's great to me.
I love that.
All right. Well, thanks. If you meet and then would like to pass any homework along to Ed and I, or if you decide we're not ready for the next agenda, just let us know so that we can work best with you.
I think that's great. And I apologize for being a little scattered, but other than family stuff, I'm around and we'll figure out what's best. I like actually handing it off to Malia and Brian, but I won't say that out loud. Oops.
So kind. So kind. I think I heard you.
Great. Malia, you said you wanted to reopen item 5 about the public hearing date.
Yes. The community center is actually reserved for the full day of May 24th by a third party.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was a good catch, Malia.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Do we want to proceed with the 31st then?
Or can it be not a Wednesday? Is that easier?
Yeah.
I don't know which is easier.
We could do like Monday, June 5th.
Sounds good to me.
Or
Thursday, the
Thursday the
25th.
Yeah.
What if we said Thursday the 25th, and Amanda, you and Erin make that determination that it works okay? Malia, is the center open?
Yes. As long as it's in the evening on the 25th.
And I just might comment that the 23rd is that Tuesday and we don't have a council meeting. We do the first 3.
Oh, we could do it then.
It's a little less close to the holiday.
That's what I was thinking. The 25th, people might actually be heading out of town. What about the 23rd?
It's good for me, I think.
The center is open.
Okay.
I will
Brian?
still be out of town, but I can actually attend virtually that time.
Okay. Brian, can you make it? Oh, you're on mute. Tuesday the 23rd?
Let me try that without being muted. Yeah, that would work for me.
Okay.
Tuesday, 23rd.
Okay. That is our, all right. I will communicate that to town council and work on posting. Okay, great.
And then also, is Craig available?
Oh yeah, Craig. Sweet. Thanks, Craig. Okay. Let's move on to item 7 on our agenda, items for next meeting's agenda. I'll likely carry over the legislative webinar that we need to watch. I think we'll have a question about tiny houses. What else would folks like on the next agenda?
I don't know that we'll have any updates for the things we're doing. In other words, you can put RV on there till Malia and I, or Brian and Malia tell you if we've got something. The tiny home discussion might be timely to help us understand the RV stuff. So this could all benefit each other.
Okay. I will put also an update on the public hearing and responsibilities of the commissioners. For new commissioners, in the past, when we have public hearings, we have like certain people taking notes, like while certain people are moderating. We have somebody bring up sign-in sheet, like things like that. So we could talk about that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Anything
sounds
else?
great.
Okay. Moving on to item 8, other. Any others for the agenda this evening? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I abstained last time, maybe. No, aye.
Great. All right. Meeting is adjourned at 7:02 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.